The National Water Commission is updating that with the recent heavy rainfall from the tropical depression, approximately 10% of its over 450 systems have been impacted in some way. This includes high turbidity levels, blocked intakes, flooding, landslides, and in some cases accessibility issues or issues relating to power supply. Additionally, we have been tracking, our teams have been monitoring the other southern areas. So all systems across St. Elizabeth, Manchester, Clarendon, which typically those latter two tend to have systems that are prone to turbidity. We continue to monitor those and we await further updates on them. The wastewater systems as well are generally prone to heavy rainfall, sometimes due to stormwater intrusion into the network, resulting in overflows and excessive pressures on the treatment plants. There may be cases where there are sewer blockages and the consequent case of possible solids impacting the system. And the third area or third potential factor is where we may have power supply issues that disrupt operations at the plants themselves. So what is best practice is we encourage persons over this time to ensure they are not flushing any material, any solid material that could cause any blockages into the network. And we want to remind them that if there is a case of overflows due to stormwater intrusion, this is generally a temporary situation which will rectify itself once the rainfall abates. So again, we are at about 10% in terms of systems impacted. That's about somewhere between 40 and 50 systems at this time, which are temporarily out of operation. We are working as best as possible to rectify those that have issues such as electrical outages. But the ones which are impacted by high turbidity, we will have to allow for conditions to become more favorable, and then the necessary remedial work is carried out at the plants, which normally involves clearing of the intakes, removing of any mud or silt, and then disinfection and water quality testing before we resume operations. We want to encourage persons to be mindful of possible low pressures in their areas over the period of heavy rainfall. We want to also remind persons to have storage for their family at least for 2 to 3 days. Ensure your containers are clean, and ideally plastic containers. For those persons who also have tank systems, ensure you check the valves on the tanks, and if there are pumps attached, also ensure that your pumping mechanism is working as it should. We are wishing persons to remain safe, repair leaks where possible, and just to be very vigilant over the next 24 to 48 hours as we continue to serve you as your choice water supply provider. Now, in terms of the systems or the areas that are most affected, we have noted several of the eastern parishes to include Kingston and St. Andrew, St. Catherine, and St. Thomas. Kingston and St. Andrew has almost 30 systems which are currently impacted, mainly in east and west rural areas, in addition to the Hope Filter plant. The St. Catherine areas, we have seen it's somewhat more spread. There have been some electrical issues, for instance, in the Bogwalk area, particularly our Tullow Spring facility. But North St. Catherine, our Sioux River system or Guys Hill systems have also been experiencing high levels of turbidity. So we continue to work as assiduously as possible, but it is also impacted by it's dependent on more favorable conditions, which means we may be having to monitor these systems over the next 24 hours or so.
the ODPEM has been receiving throughout the night and into this morning and now into the afternoon reports from a number of parishes that have been affected. To date, we have most of the impacts so far from the system that is impacting the island happening in St. Thomas, Kingston and St. Andrew, St. Elizabeth, Manchester, Clarendon, St. Catherine, Portland, and we have some reports out in Trelawney and St. Mary. One of the major issues that we were dealing with was out in Hardlock Crossing in Duck and Field, Golden Grove area in St. Thomas, where approximately 24 persons were trapped by floodwaters at the Hardlock Crossing area, and those persons were evacuated this morning by the JDF Air Wing. We have also made a decision on the heels of that incident to assess the situation in the Bogwalk Gorge, and made a decision jointly with the JFB, the JCF and the National Works Agency to close off that area to vehicular traffic and to ask persons to use the alternate route. We continue to monitor the situation, and we continue to say to persons, ensure that you are not venturing out if you don't have to, and don't go crossing flooded areas, especially where there are fords, streams or flooded roadways, because 1 foot of water can literally, running water that is, can literally wash away a car. So we are asking persons to continue to listen to the information from the ODVEM and the Met Office as we go through this emergency situation and to ensure that you're taking care of yourself and taking care of your loved ones, especially persons who are elderly, the children and persons with disabilities. And continue to listen to the update from the ODPEM and the Met Office as we go through this current weather situation.
JPS crews are continuing to address outages being experienced by some of our customers in light of the ongoing effects of the adverse weather conditions. Roughly 2% or 14,000 customers across the country have been impacted, and this is due to landslides, trees coming into contact with power lines, trees breaking power lines, but the majority of this has really taken place in Kingston and rural St. Andrew. Some of our restoration efforts are being hampered by the current conditions and by lack of access, and I'll give you as an example. Crews were unable to do restoration work in Mavis Bank due to a landslide which cut off access, and there were like 1,200 customers there out of supply in that community. Notwithstanding though, we do continue to work where we can to restore power to our customers. We may be impacted, as we said, by the various weather elements that are ongoing, but where it is safe for us to do so, we are working assiduously to return power supply to our customers.